Hey there everybody, this is Jacob with JMK-PCBs. Today I'm going to be demoing a prototype unit of the new Epic switcher project. We have a batch of PCBs available very shortly on the JMK website. You're also going to be able to buy these PCBs from Thomas at TH Custom Designs. I should note that this project was designed in conjunction with THC or Thomas H Custom PCBs in Europe. Thomas and I have worked very hard on creating this product for the DIY community in particular. This is the first major project that we've done that even approaches this sort of scale from JMK PCBs. This is going to be offered as a PCB set with the accompanying chip that enables you to build your own version of this box right here. But I should tell you that some of our goals with this unit was that we could build it inside this 1032L looper enclosure available from Foresight. You can find this looper enclosure in Europe, you can find it in America, you can find it on several different websites in terms of DIY pedal supply companies. You can buy this especially from Pedal Parts Plus in powder coated. So the great thing about this, for about $20 you can buy the enclosure. For about $30 we're estimating you'll buy the PCBs and chipset. We're trying to figure out the pricing on that still. It could be as much as $35 with shipping depending on where you are in the world. And then although the rest of the parts, I mean, you're looking at jacks and switches are the most expensive elements. There's a few resistors, some LEDs, especially the RGB LEDs. There's some chips that you need to buy, and Mouser's supplies them. Lots of wiring, a whole lot of wiring. It's a very wire-intensive project. But you don't have pots, and you don't have knobs, and you don't have a bunch of the other things that often make regular builds expensive. So there's some cost savings in terms of what it would be in compared to a pedal. It's going to cost you more to build this unit than say a phaser, a tremolo, or an overdrive. There's no doubt about it. We tried hard to make it so that for about $100 or less you could build one of these. You can spend more and get a nicer enclosure in terms of powder coating. You could spend more and get Molex headers and wires to really cut down on some of the internal problems that you might face. You could spend more on parts getting them faster from Mouser or cheaper from Tata if you're not as worried about quality in terms of where you get your parts from. So there's a little bit of variance. I'd say about as expensive as you could try to make it would be about $135 to $140. And that may not include shipping. But the nice thing about it is that for the amount of flexibility it gives you, say on a pedal board like this, boy oh boy, there's not too many other projects out there that that'll give you some of the versatility in terms of function. We're going to show you some of the features of it. First of all, I should tell you that we're not powered at all, and the unit is completely off, but it passes our signal. As you can see right now, my guitar is plugged straight into this unit via this cord, and then each of these 5 pedals, the Barber Tone Press, JMK Phaser, EHX Micropog, JM Clon, and tremolo unit here, the JMK Tremolo unit, are each plugged into loops. We've got 5 loops on the back of this unit, and then we go out from there into a Strymon timeline and a Boss digital reverb. You can see right now the reverb and the delay are working. And you can see they're working just fine. And but you can see the tone press, micropog. Nothing happens when we do those things. So I'm going to power it up here. That's pretty fun. We get a little bit of a light show when it powers on. And you'll see that it powers on with a blue light. indicating we're in bank 1. This first switch here is our bank switch, and it cycles through a set of different options, and the blue option is called our manual mode. So when you're in blue mode here, each of these 5 switches correspond with a loop. So for example, in loop 1 here, we have a green LED to tell us that it's on, and it runs our compressor. You can see the compressor is now engaged. In loop 2, we have a phaser. In loop 3, we have our EHX micropod. Next we have our overdrive here with the JM Clon. And then last we have my JMK tremolo. Okay, so when you're in manual mode, then the blue mode here, the neat thing is you can sort of switch in and out effects. It might be all over your boards, so that it really brings everything. And then you hit the solo when you're like. So you can really create some sort of unique sounds, messing around with things, and it's just sort of all at your... So manual mode instantly brings the accessibility down. So all these effects are sort of brought down, and you can sort of begin to sort of sit and play with things that are just right at your feet. The real magic, though, of this device is that as we move into our banks, we can cycle through 4 separate banks. Unfortunately, our RGB LED here isn't a particularly useful one. Its colors are pretty off. This is a prototype unit, but we do have 4 separate colors. Our first color here is green. You won't be able to tell the difference, but this is technically orange. You can see it probably better in person than you might. It still looks green. Our next one is violet. It's a purple color. This one's supposed to be white, but it's very blue tinged, and so that when we get back to blue again, it doesn't look like we've really changed. But we do have 4 separate banks. The neat thing about this is as we enter each bank, all of a sudden these switches now turn from on-off switches to preset switches. So as I select preset 1, as I select preset 2, it turns that red light on. Preset 3, 4, and 5. Now currently, we have them currently set so they're empty. That's sort of a default feature of each bank, is that until you program them, they're empty. Programming is super simple, and you don't even need to use your hands at all. I love doing this. So I'm going to build as if I were sort of doing different elements for a song, as an example. So first thing we do is we select a preset, like we have preset 1 right now, and we hold for just a couple seconds on our program switch, which is also our bank switch, and it begins to flash. When you're in this mode, you still get signal passing, which is sort of cool because you can actually test your sound out. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on that switch right there. Notice that that program switch now turned to orange. And when it's orange, it's indicating that both the effect of that loop, loop 1 in this particular case, and the program, or for preset 1, is on at the same time. So we've just turned our compressor on. So that's all I want to do for this preset, and I'm going to press and hold for a couple seconds. Oh, didn't do it for long enough. And it's saved. See that? Just like that. So now as you press it turns off the compressor there. So we switch back. The compressor is on and working. We're going to program preset 2 here. Okay, when I enter programming mode, and turn on the compressor again. And I'm also going to turn on the overdrive. Now you notice that these ones are green, and this preset switch is on red. What this is indicating is that loops 1 and 4 are on. Loop 2 is not currently active. It's set for red. So we press and hold this switch one more time. It's now saved. So as we switch back and forth, we go from just compressor to compressor and overdrive. Now on preset 3 here, I'm going to set it up again. And I'm going to set it up for my compressor, and this time I'm going to turn on the tremolo. Again, you can test out the sound. Okay, let me turn on that POG. I'm going to turn the sub-octave down on that so I get just a little more of a subtle. I'm going to save that preset. So we go so sort of for like a more spanky clean sound. So you begin to sort of see yourself working your way through a song. I just sort of made up on the spot a verse and then into a chorus and then sort of into this little lead line there for a second. And then you get to preset 4 and it's empty, right? You can sort of set yourself up with maybe a fourth part for an outro or something like that. I'm going to turn on the compressor, the phaser, the overdrive. Remember that turns orange to indicate that it's both active as a preset and that loop 4 is on. We save that in. Maybe this is for that bridge. So that's sort of our basic introduction to the Epic Looper. Some of the other features that we have here are more banks, obviously. What's neat about this is that every time you scroll through a bank, the previous bank is still active. Right, that's an empty bank, right? But I was still set on the green bank 1. And as I sort of move up into this green, green bank 1 is still active, but this orange, or technically orange or violet one, right? Even though I'm in this bank, my preset that was active from the green set is still active, so it doesn't actually switch until you select a new preset. Again, it rotates all the way through before, sort of cycles through. We've been sort of playing with different numbers of banks, and we sort of discovered that having 4 banks in manual mode, which is what we're on right now. So we go up to preset. When you go back to manual mode, you're in manual mode, but the 3 effects that you have active. Sorry, never mind. Hang on a second. Let's go to preset here. Okay, so now I'm going to go. Okay, so now manual mode, where our 3 effects are on. Alright, so now you can turn them back just on and off again. So even when you're in a preset, whatever, right, say you're on this preset here, you just quickly cycle to manual mode, and then you just add something, which is a handy feature. You could also set it up so that loop 5 here is actually amp switching. So for example, with the way that we've got it set is internally there's some jumpers that you have to rearrange. So it can either be a loop or it's an amp switch. So you can either have 4 loops in an amp switch or 5 loops. You can actually build it with just 3 loops in an amp switch or 2 loops in an amp switch, or you could even have it set up so that it was 3 loops or 4 loops. You couldn't get 5 loops and an amp switch. That's what I'm saying, is you can sort of do any combination of up to 5 loops or up to 4 loops and an amp switch. So the way that it works is that the send works in one way. So when it's on, like for example, if we're in manual mode here, there we go. When you turn the amp switch on, as an example here, the send will close and the return will open, and then when you turn it off, it does the opposite, right? The send will now open and the return will now close. So basically, if you have an amp that requires a normally open switch, so when it's off it's open, then you have that. If you have an amp that is normally closed, then the other jack will work for that amp, right? You can have one or depending on the amp you're using, maybe you have 2 different amps that use 2 different styles of switching. You could, in theory, switch both of them. However, both of them switch at the same time. So if whatever effect it is that you want will only work, like for example, if you tried to do 1 amp as a channel switching and 1 amp as a tremolo, you'd be changing, you'd turn your tremolo on and changing your channel at the same time. Also, we don't currently support TRS, any sort of TRS connections, mostly because we couldn't figure out how to differentiate between the tip and the ring in terms of, well, which gets connected to ground. It's not like you can cycle through 2 options. It is what it is in terms of our relay switching. We're working on trying to provide other options later on down the road, maybe with a revision for version 2 or something like that. Maybe we'll have more features. So if that's something that really interests you, please let us know. Right now we felt that this was the best option in terms of most versatility for the widest group of people. And currently it's not buffered, so this is just a true bypass unit. Like I said, you take the power off and the signal still goes through. So we love the fact that it is a little bit of a light show for you when it fires up. Yeah. Oh, there's one more thing. We're going to do a separate video for this, but there's actually MIDI output capability with this. There's a jack that is currently not installed on my prototype unit. It will be installed. I'm just waiting for I'm waiting for my drill bit that's large enough. I was at a different shop to get my MIDI jack installed. But we have MIDI output. So for example, I've got this Strymon timeline on the end here. This unit, when you select a preset, right, will also simultaneously send a program change message to this unit. So it will change the channel via MIDI for this unit right here. So when you send that data, if this is on, sorry, I have a weird thing going on with this delay unit. Sorry. Anyway, so it'll send a program change message. It's a preset program change message. You can't program what PC message gets sent. So for example, with the green bank, this is program 1, program 2, program 3, program 3, program 4, program 5, and then when you cycle up one more bank, this is program 6, 7, 8. So when, like for example, with the Strymon timeline unit, you would be scrolling through bank 1A is preset 1, bank 1B is preset 2, bank 2A is preset 3. That's sort of the way it would work with this particular unit. So that can be handy for some people. For example, if you're trying to do a preset, but you have to save the right preset of in your delay unit to the right spot for it to correspond with the preset that you are setting up in your unit. So that requires a little bit of extra effort in terms of programming, but the fact that it does change MIDI is sort of a big deal. The average DIY unit doesn't do that. It's an extra feature. Currently, we do not have MIDI input on this. One of the things we looked at doing was, well, could you build these units into, say, a rack and then have a separate ground control unit of some sort, or even build it onto your pedal board and then just sort of plug a MIDI port in and you could have a separate unit that does all your switching for you. We looked at that, but the extra cost involved and the space used was just not worth it in terms of what it would translate into the average consumer and the average builder. The extra effort just didn't seem like it would pay off for the average person. Programming on the fly is just so easy. Saves it right up. One, two. I hope you really enjoyed what you've seen, and really look forward to this project. But again, I should just say how much it's been a pleasure to work with Thomas on this product. He's very good at what he does, and I think he and I are both very excited about what this is going to look like on the average pedal board, and super excited about what DIYers out there are going to do with it. So thanks a lot for watching. Really hope you've enjoyed this far, and hope you've watched this far, and we'll see you next time. Stay tuned for more details about picking up an Epic PCB, an Epic Looper PCB, and managing to get a build of your own going. Thanks a lot for watching, and hope you have a great day.